Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the latest episode of Rick and Morty, Mortyplicity. And I really enjoyed this episode. It was a nice one that didn't really get bogged down in a lot of weird lore or anything like that. Now granted, I do like lore heavy episodes and world building and everything like that. But this was just a funny crazy ass scenario that just went fucking ass bonkers, and they just ran with it. And a lot of the stuff, like sometimes you get an episode of a show that just really clicks on like the jokes that they're hitting for you, and this one really just kind of clicked all the way around. Even towards the end, it's like, what the fuck? So we see that Rick and his family are having breakfast and everything, and him and Morty are talking about how they're going to kill the Christian god who's been asleep, and they're just going to go up and gank him. Summer wants in on it, but they're like, screw you, Summer. And Jerry's thing is that he's going on a job interview. And Rick's like, wait a minute, something's wrong. And then, boom, in comes these weird-ass squid things and kill them all. And then that's what sets off the entire series of events. We find out that we go then to another Sanchez family, and we see that Rick's like, oh shit, we gotta go. And we find out that he's been making decoy families throughout all of this. Now this kind of runs kind of similar to linking up the cloning stuff with like all the different kind of alternate versions where Rick would fuck something up and then be like, alright, we go to another place. With this kind of concept though, he understands that he's like fucked over enough people that they'd be coming after him, so he makes decoy families around like the planet, mainly around the country, to kind of throw him off. And the thing is, it then starts doing like what they call in this episode an Asimov cascade effect, where we just it's really interesting because you wouldn't think that an episode where Rick and his family all gets murdered constantly would be funny or really entertaining, but here with this setup and how well it's executed, it works very well, at least in how I enjoyed it. I'm like, okay, this is kind of funny because you just see him starting to go kind of crazy and like killing all these different decoys, finding out if decoys had made decoys and all that kind of stuff going on and what's happening. You get kind of faked out with one thing before another one pops up and you're like, oh shit, trying to figure out if these are decoys, but then they're like, actually, we're just like, wait a minute, am I a decoy? Before we get to the effect where, of course, one of them starts talking about the Asimov cascade thing going on, where you'd make a decoy and then decoys would make decoys and they wouldn't figure out who's a decoy or not, and you would have various kind of levels of decoys. Jerry, of course, also brings up the whole squid people kind of thing, and it's really kind of funny because when he's detailing everything going on with that cascade effect, he also brings up a Highlander thing, which was pretty funny, where it would lead to a Highlander situation, one to rule them all kind of thing. They don't really get it, and he's like, alright, fine, then after this, we're renting that movie. Jerry, of course, brings up the whole squid thing, being like, shouldn't we kind of like deal with them? Because that's kind of going a little bit weird. Rick mentally is like, okay, B story, fuck that shit. We're all staying together to do this. Alright, I can dig it. Those were like two big ones that I really fucking liked. It was like, alright, cool. So they just continue to do these things, and of course, at one point, they dress up in shitty squid costumes, and we find out that the ones in the actual squid costumes are, again, decoys going around killing other decoys, and it's just creating this fucking loop of, like, insanity and death going on. We even check in on the president, and I was like, yeah, there's a situation in the Southwest and everything. It's like, then we just get, like, an electoral college joke of, like, yeah, how many people that, like, their vote for me? It's like, oh, yeah, but the electoral college kind of shit. It's like, yeah, I understand. It was pretty much there, too, in support of slavery and all that shit. And it's just like, okay, that... it was a strange little one that popped up, but it worked pretty well, and kind of also worked that it's like a Rick Sanchez situation. So I was interested to see what they were going to kind of do with it. I'm like, okay. I was like, interesting cutaway there, as we then get back into the meat of it, as we see certain decoys like doing this whole like bucket list thing of like Summer wanted to pee in the ocean, Jerry wanted to visit every kind of like baseball stadium, and like Morty wanted to like ask a girl out or something before decoys came in and fucking nuked them. Let's see. Then we get to one group of the decoys that pretty much gets the house pretty much centered up and pretty much starts off the Highlander tournament by pretty much making this giant kind of holographic thing to pretty much get all the rest of the decoys to come to him and be like, hey, fuck you motherfuckers, I'm the real one, come and get some kind of shit. And of course it pretty much works, as we then see them kind of like fighting and everything and going all out. Then we see these ones that were pretty much like Muppets trying to pretty much impart the kind of theme, making fun of the whole theme of like what would be going on about like, oh, okay, because parts of the episode we see them like one group got taken in by like this one that's pretty much a shitty one monster wise, because each kind of successive generation of decoy is like less and less perfect and turning into like at one point we get like fucking Pinocchio kind of puppet ones that are like wooden shit, and one's pretty much taking decoys and fucking skinning them kind of Buffalo Bill fucking style, and it's just like, oh fucking shit. And the Muppet kind of ones are talking about how like this Rick is the Rick that made him is kind of like their god, and how they're like how Rick has been like trying to say that he's not really protective of his family and doesn't really care about him, but him making these decoys kind of invalidates that, but yet he's not really showing the love to these decoys because he immediately goes without empathizing with them, and just his immediate reaction is to kill them all and try and stop this insanity. Well, not to stop the insanity, but to stop them from taking his ass out, instead of like trying to reason with them that they're actually real people and like let them do other kind of shit. And they're kind of making fun of it, even though there is kind of like a thing there. I kind of like the balance of just kind of like making fun of the show as a whole while also doing something really smart. That's what kind of drew me into the show to begin with. Like, not that it was making fun of itself in the beginning, it's just that's something you get over time, because for now into the 5th season. But this one just worked really well doing that as they're the Muppets, and then they like unzip themselves like, yeah, they wouldn't kill us because we were so cute, trying to go off. They go back home, and then there's one fucking dude, Stinger wise, that we'd seen at one beginning portion who wanted to be hunted and was kind of like Mr. Poopy Butthole, but not really. He was just like, his whole thing was wanting to be hunted, and he kills all these people. He's like, I want somebody to hunt me. It's like, the fuck? And then of course we go back into space and we see that one had an adventure and ran into the clone Beth as well. It's like, shit, what's going on? Decoys are going off and fucking crazy nuts. And that's where the episode ends. It's like, yep, that was entertaining, seeing all the death, the carnage, and all the crazy shit. One of the Jerrys that was kind of like a wooden puppet Pinocchio, for some reason was into varnish and let the rest of them die because he didn't have enough varnish for them. It's like, okay. But that's important because that one survived, and we see him varnish himself at the end credits scene, and he then starts floating in a river, gets taken by beavers, gets made into the dam. It's like, oh shit, now I can die. But then the wasteland has come, and this like mutated woodpecker kind of thing is like a person, like sentient now. Woodpeckers in him. They take him and they pretty much make a mirror out of him, and he's like, oh, cowboys, what the fuck? And they're of course like, what the fuck is that thing? They smash and burn it, and then he wakes back up screaming and shit. He's like, why the fuck won't I die? And he's like, wow, we're back into Christianity. How do we go to cowboys to regressing back to this? As we see pretty much a similar thing of what was going on with the crucifixion of Jesus, with like different kind of like alien mutated peoples kind of thing, different kind of evolutionary course of life that are still in kind of like a Roman kind of get up as they're doing this. And he's just like, fuck this shit. It's like, I was like, I didn't know what I was trying to expect with what was going on with the end one, but I'm like, yep, that one in an interesting place, and that was entertaining. So overall, I really like this episode because it went balls to the walls with its concept. Now, granted, because it's like decoys killing decoys, it's mainly going through it is just like picking kind of like the favorite kind of ones that you see. But all of it was very entertaining. I really enjoyed the jokes in this one, and I can't wait to see kind of what else they have in store for this season. I'm like, all right, cool. Glad to have the show back on. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.